The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends. Thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we'll talk about Austin's 2-1 loss away at RSL. We'll preview this week's home match versus LAFC, and we'll cover all the other news from the Austin FC universe. My name's Landon, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley. And Landon, we experience the typical chaotic Austin couple of days here. So at 95 degrees yesterday and 38 today. And I happen to be downtown for South by doing my traditional walk around and listen to people from California say words that don't make any sense in normal human context. Many of those people were very cold and were not quite prepared for today. But hopefully what that means is they will not move here in droves because they come during the best part of the year and decide to stick around.
It's right. It's like Austin Festival Syndrome, where you come during either March or October and think Austin is paradise. And then you get here through your first August and realize, oh no, I've made a horrible mistake.
Yeah. So a little bit of that going on. I would say the most interesting thing I saw today was Reveille, the Texas A&M mascot, was hanging out outside of a Aggie activation. Seemed like a wonderful dog. I don't really have much to say beyond that.
So we got A&M dogs in town. We have Houston news stations in town interviewing Brad Stuver. Sounds like everyone wants to be Austin.
I think so. Another thing I wanted to mention here is last week you sort of teased this. You talked about if we do more things on social media, and that may happen soon. So I think we can reveal that we are doing more things on social media for anybody that pays attention.
And we're talking soon. In the royal we here.
The royal we, yes, I know. I was hoping you would set up how all of a sudden you and I decided that we would start posting a whole bunch on Instagram.
And being good at it.
And being good.
We just decided we were going to do that, and it's working.
For sure.
No,
okay,
that is not the case. We brought in someone new to the Moon Tower family. Social media admin Whitney has been killing it, doing a great job. So thank you, Whitney. Can't wait to see what you're able to do for us. And so thankful that I don't have to make all the social media posts that happen now. Because I'm bad at it, and I don't like it.
Well, she likes it, and she's good at it. Let's maybe just set an even keel for you on that. You're net zero, but she'll be better. And we appreciate the folks that have responded to some of the stuff that has been posted, because apparently if you ask for feedback, people will give it to you. And I think what I would like to do is move on. If you have the censor button ready, I will move on to the story of the week, because I think my favorite reaction was from K-Star 1976 about the game, who just said, fudge, to quote A Christmas Story.
Approximately 15 U's in that word.
Yes.
But yeah, the feedback from the temperature check after the game on Instagram, I'll just read through some of them. We've got Lynn Fox Rachel with an emoji peeking out from behind its own hands. Marcelo, friend of the show, says this team is mentally weak and has been since year one. Tom Halleck, friend of the show again, Rosales on the right wing is a crime. Scott Herman says we were a walking mash unit. Uzuni ain't it. Potential is there when healthy. What else? Which other ones should we read here?
I think you hit on most of the super high, the big highlights there.
I'll end with this one. Slim Pickens says, late gate losses will be my villain origin story. It's going to make a Joker turn if it happens again.
If it does. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that's happened to them a lot this year. So I wanted to go to Coach Estevez's quote after the match, which said, we didn't deserve to leave Salt Lake without a point. And originally, I was feeling pretty negative about this yesterday, and that's when I wrote some of this down. So in true Moon Tower soccer fashion, we're not going to throw the coach under the bus and go all hardcore negative 4 games into the year. But do you believe that? Did Austin deserve or not deserve to leave without a point?
I don't think that's true. I think there are some, if you look at the first goal, you can call it a little bit unfortunate, but we'll talk about it when we go over it. It's still not entirely undeserved. There were so many other chances that Stuver bailed us out from. And then the majority of our shots came from one 5-minute sequence in the first half. So I don't think that's true. And then the next question you have on here is, do we believe Nico believes that? Which I also think is not, the answer is no, because later in the same press conference, he kind of went back on himself. Someone asked him, like, okay, if you thought you deserved a point, like, what do you credit that to? And he said, ourselves. So so he at least like went back and like didn't try to blame it on something else and just said like, no, we weren't good enough. It's like, okay, well then you didn't deserve the point then.
In what other context are we going to that? Yeah. So it was kind of a weird press conference from him. The other thing about, well, I guess we can get into this later, but were you playing for the tie? And he's like, no, we were playing for the win the whole time. We never just play for the tie. But the substitutions, well, at least the way they played out of the substitutions made it look like the tie. But we can maybe save that for later on, unless you have something specific that you want to add on that one too.
I'll say I'm totally fine with him saying in a press conference we weren't playing for the tie. I am totally fine with him playing for the tie in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a scenario, because I was right. Wrote this down too. It's like this team's injured, playing in a rough group of games. They're playing at altitude. They got a tough road ahead. It would be, and they're on the road, right, at altitude. Like a smart thing to do would be to play for that tie. So maybe he did and just didn't want to talk about it. As usual, the people that are prone to criticize the coach about being, I may have even used the term toxic positivity again yesterday with his approach. But I guess like what do we expect him to say and do given where they are right now? Like, should people want something different out of him?
I'm not too. I will have criticisms for Nico Estevez later on in the show. As far as press conference stuff, like, I don't care that much about it. I'm okay with him being who he is and not trying to pretend to be somebody he's not. I think there is an argument to say that sometimes a team does need a kick in the butt, and maybe this is a time where he could have given it to him. But I have more to say about how he set up the team and what that led this game to look like. So I'm not as worked up about a press conference, but I am a little worked up about what happened on the field.
Well, that reminds me of another quote that we didn't read, I don't think. Jonathan M. Fletcher, this is a masterclass in ineptitude from Estevez. ATX has literally no tactics. Would that be something you would be more likely to agree in some way on being critical of than whatever quotes happen to come up in the post-game presser?
Yeah, I have a hard time finding which part of it I disagree with. So more on that later. Maybe we should take a break and we can come back and dig into the game, and we'll eventually get into my thoughts on Nico Estevez's decision making in this game. Hang tight, we'll be right back. When no one is around. Our Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment that you can check out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FVF.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, and my understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FVF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Esperanza branch on game day, visit www.goamplify.com/Moontower. All right, we are back. Let's dig into this RSL match. So Austin FC drops another tough one on the road, 2-1 in Sandy, Utah. Now sitting in 12th place alongside all of the expected wooden spoon contenders. Before we dig into the meat of the game, let's check back into what the pre-game narratives were for this one, Jeremiah.
Yeah, this is an interesting one a little bit this week. It's not just help, although I think help still is the biggest part of it. So we get the report that we may see some time from Mikel Dessler. He ends up making the bench, so he's healthy enough to be on the squad, but plays no minutes, correct?
Correct. He did not come into this game.
We get news that Danny's out at least a month with his hamstring injury. I think 4 to 6 weeks maybe is what was said.
I think Nico said at least a month. That was as specific as he got.
Okay, as he was going to get. Okay. We had Nelson being questionable on the injury report for the first time.
Right, which I kind of missed last week. I know I somehow I missed that Nico saying that in the press conference before we recorded, but he said that that Nelson did request that sub in the first half, and so that ends up playing a part in this game as well, where he once again has to be pulled early because he's not fit enough to go full 90.
And then we still have no update on Taylor, Owen, Vasquez, right? Other than, I don't know, did we get any update at all on him?
I think the most specific one was on Owen, that he expects him to be ready to go after the FIFA break. So we have this LAFC game this coming weekend, and then the next weekend is off with an international break, and then that following game will be Inter Miami away, if I'm not mistaken. But he seems to think that Owen might be ready to go for that one.
Yes, Inter Miami away in a stadium that looks like it's about 6 months from being ready, that is opening in 20 days or something like that.
I saw a video of it today. It looks like Q2 did, like months and months before the first kickoff. So I actually have tickets to that game, plane tickets and game tickets, but in that order, plane tickets first. But I'm a little bit nervous that we're not actually going to watch the game in that stadium right now.
Yeah, maybe watching it in the old stadium, which I assume still exists.
Surely.
Yeah, surely it will, because they've played in it so far. Yeah. So all these injuries, what that does lead to is the announcement on Friday that the club had signed midfielder Jorge Alstue to his short-term agreement from the next pro affiliate, Austin FC 2, available for selection for the match against RSL on March 14th, and was selected and got some minutes in this match.
Yeah, I was ready for the Alstue heads to call for Nico's head, simply for the fact that he did not get put on the field, which ended up not being a problem in this game.
So what this means is now he can sign a maximum of 4 short-term agreements included on 4 matchday rosters, but may appear in no more than 2 MLS League matches. So now we've used one of those 2 MLS League matches. Again, there's room for him on the supplemental at this point, right? If for some reason they need more of him, so I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Yeah, the thing with the supplemental is like those international roster spots are, we can sell those to through half the season and then get them back. If we sign Jorge Alstue, we cannot do it for half a season. Like we have to sign him for the rest of the year. So that is a more permanent decision if they end up making that one. If he earns it, like if he gets little spots like this and earns it and we need him, great. But I'm totally fine with them slow playing it like this for the time being.
And then one thing that I did last week was speculated that maybe the red card would get rescinded for Gary Biru, and instead he got fined for the red card. So
yeah, it got definitely worse, not better.
Went the other way. Yeah, definitely not in the mood to forgive him for that one.
So the lineup was a little bit surprising. We were curious who would slot into the midfield with Danny Pereira out. Curious if they would stick with the standard shape with the back 4 or switch to a back 5 and move Rosales over there. They ended up sticking with the kind of 4-2-3-1 shape. Just moved John Bell into left back, which is a little bit of a surprise, but I think personnel-wise made sense. Again, I have thoughts further on as far as the actual shape and strategy goes, but personnel-wise, I'm fine with this. And he ended up having a decent game for the most part. Heinz Svatak in the middle, Gallagher right back, Sanchez and Duber Sarski in the midfield. I think there was a question if it would it be Duber or Sabovic. And then the front 4 was the same as always, with Rosales on the right, Torres central, Nelson left, Uzuni up top.
Let's get into the game. The game state early on, if I remember right, is RSL has a lot of the ball. Austin does not have a lot of the ball. This would be a theme throughout the match for the most part of it. If you're like, I look at the little FOTMob momentum chart, and it was very, very purplish throughout almost the entirety of the match, except for a few minutes around the goal and a few minutes at the end of the first half, which I know we're going to get into. But especially with Facundo Torres, being around, as the Austin's habits are, like a sort of against the run of play on a set piece, magic can happen.
Yeah, for sure. And so we get set up with this set piece when Justin Glad fouls Jaden Nelson, wide left. We've seen a few patterns in set pieces this year, and one of them is when it's an open play set piece, like not a corner, is what I mean by that, where it's out in the field. We'll see all the big guys line up on the edge of the box and then crash centrally with one person deep, usually Jaden Nelson. And so we get that exact look where the ball comes in, Jaden Nelson floats wide and is there for the rebound, or it seems like sometimes Torres has gone directly for him and tried to hit him for him to cut it back across. So he tries to go a bit more direct in this one. All the big guys who are lined up on the 18-yard box, like right on the edge, crash the penalty spot. And the ball from Torres, again, really nice in-swinger from that left side. John Bell times it really well, gets a really well-placed contact on the ball. I think it maybe goes off of the striker, Sergi Salans, is that his name? I think it maybe gets a touch off of his head, but it was going in the same direction anyway, so who knows if it helped or hurt, but where the ball went was perfect, and Cabral has no chance to save this one.
Yeah, it was really well played. And it was one where, I mean, Heinzike was right there too. I mean, it was like almost, I was afraid it was going to hit him in the head.
He almost blocked it, it seemed like, right?
Yeah, they were both up and they were both high. So yeah, that works out really well for Austin. And I know late in the game they were talking about the set piece coach, right? Who is Nico Bosch, right? Is the set piece coach?
I believe so, yeah.
And kind of maybe the effect he's had of the team, and he's had a long history in Spain. So like maybe that's why Austin's getting better on set pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that's happening in the Premier League across Europe, and it seems like it's moving into MLS now. And so maybe we're not satisfied with a lot of how Austin FC is doing, but this seems to be one phase of play where they're finding some success. So lean into it. So the lead does not last long. RSL ties it up in the 24th minute. Well, we say RSL does. It was an Alexander Svatak own goal. Kaliskan, one of their central midfielders, makes an underlapping run from the midfield, receives the ball, hits a hard cross across the face of goal. Austin have the goal mouth really well covered. There's a lot of numbers in there, but the ball needs to be dealt with just because of where it is. So Svatak extends a leg to block it, but instead redirects it into the roof of the net. And I don't know if you caught Stuver's little pose at the end, but he's like, looked like he was doing like the robot dance from the 80s and just froze
I do
in place.
That. Yeah. With his face frozen too, like what just happened?
Yeah. But Sasha Kleshin, who was doing color commentary on the broadcast, said that maybe Svatak, as the ball progressed to the inline, that Svatak should have shifted in a bit more. I think that's tough because of where the numbers, like where, who did we play? RSL, where RSL's numbers were, that I understand why he went back there. But to Sasha's point, as that ball comes in, if he's a little closer to goal, it is easier to cut it out and direct it away from goal instead of into the goal. So I don't know, tough there. Like, for the record, I think Svatak had a pretty solid game. I think he was maybe not set up to succeed for a lot of the game, but as far as individual performance goes, I thought he was quite good.
Yeah, and this is another Nico quote after the match. Like, what did you take about his reaction that maybe this is true? The ball just flies faster at altitude, and that's why the ball got on top of him. That seems like something he wouldn't make up. I don't know that to,
scientifically,
I guess it makes sense.
Scientifically, that is true.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that a human can register from that distance at that speed? I don't know. I don't know that point. But like, you look at like MLB numbers, like there are more home runs hit at the stadium in Denver than there are at any other stadium. So like, it's a thing, but. And we'll talk about the last goal as well. He mentions this then, and there was a wind going that direction on that goal too. So maybe a little bit of an excuse, and maybe just like protecting Swati as well, which seemed to be kind of the main point of that part of the press conference was having Swati's back, which I'm all for. But yeah, I don't know if the players notice how much the ball moves differently.
Which Brad did too, right? When the player part came out, Brad was very clear about having his teammates back, and so it's good to see that these guys really are out for each other. You have notes here about the defensive shape. Do you feel like this is the right point in time to to go into that in detail?
I think so, because this goal is a little bit set up by it. So it was an own goal, but RSL, it was a well worked moment from RSL to get to that position, and a poorly defended moment from Austin to let them get to that position. So we changed up our defensive shape in this game. It was a 4-3-3. We have almost always go with that 4-4-2 shape. This was a 4-3-3 with Nelson, Uzuni, and Torres up top. And the middle line of three was Dubersarski and Rosales on either side of Ilie. And so Dubersarski and Rosales were doing a lot of like horizontal running, shifting back and forth as the ball went wide. They were the ones who were supposed to go and engage that ball and not the fullback. And when you're playing with like that 3-4-3 that RSL was in, I understand the logic here, but where we were getting in trouble is they would play one ball around to the side, and that first midfielder was able to get there and engage. No problem. Nothing dangerous happening there. But then as they would work the ball back around, that wing back or whoever it was wide would receive the ball with miles of space in front of them. And then that required that other midfielder to shift back over and mark them. And then RSL would just kind of work these triangles with guys rotating in and out from each other and playing quick little passes here and there. And they just tore Austin apart over and over and over. And I can see how like that might work in certain things, but like if you're going to ask your midfielders to do that much running, partially what you need is like a really killer number 6 that can cover a ton of ground. Ilie Sanchez is not that guy. He kind of never was that guy.
He never was, right? Yeah.
He's like more of a reading the game kind of player. He's still that player and is slower than he used to be. And so he just wasn't covering the kind of ground that you needed in those moments. And then the other guys weren't marking very sharply, but also just RSL pulled them around because they had the advantage almost every time when we got there. So on this goal, they pull us out of shape. Caliscan makes that run from midfield, and Rosales had already done a lot of running and then doesn't track him back behind the back line there. I think he thinks Ilie should have done it. I kind of think it's on him, and he was just tired and didn't want to. And so Caliscan receives the ball totally unmarked. So yeah, this one happened on the left-hand side. But where they had a lot of joy, RSL, was on the right-hand side with Xavier Gozo, who we mentioned in our preview last week. This young kid who's just been on a tear lately and continued at this game. I know he didn't get on the score sheet, but he gave us a lot of trouble. And because of this defensive shape, they would play over to the left, switch back to the right, and he would receive the ball. Maybe 10 times. He received the ball with not a single Austin FC player within 20 yards of him. And he would just get ahead of steam and run at us and just cause a lot of trouble every time. And so I don't know what the plan was there. Like I thought maybe they would change it at halftime because Gozo was getting the ball so frequently in those spaces. They did not change it at halftime. They end up changing it with that first sub when Nelson comes off, and move Rosales over there to a back 5, and that kind of slows down those patterns of play. But the game's mostly over at that point, and the guys are exhausted from having to run so much in the midfield at that point. So I think it was a little bit too little, too late changing it.
Yeah, I think you're right. To your point, like those guys, they're worn out and they've been running around. Let's go to the good offensive spells. This is what, about 40-ish, 41 minutes in. This is 5 of 10. Austin's 10 shots on goal, and I think 2 of the 3 shots on goal, if not shots on target, if not maybe all 3, but at least 2 come in pretty quick succession.
Yeah, 2 of them come within a second of each other, essentially. So it starts with a give and go up the left wing between Nelson and Bell. So Bell receives in behind, drives into the box, lays back a ball for Uzuni. He takes a touch, turns, gets a shot away, but it gets saved. The rebound makes its way to Torres at the top of the 18. He hits a curler, and this is a really nice save from Cabral, where he's working back across his goal, comes off his feet, and is able to lean back the other direction and still get enough power on the ball to keep it out. So really good save there. Could have been placed a little better by Torres, I think, but the save was still really nice. And then the recycled corner from that leads to an Ilie attempted volley from the top of the 18 that gets deflected wide. And then I think there's like a Swatak header and maybe something else. But those were kind of the biggest moments that come from that sequence. But again, all within 5 minutes. And that's half the shots, period, for the whole game. We go to halftime. Nothing changes when they come back out. As we mentioned before, Nelson has to come out at 59. Nico said that they're kind of building him back up to fitness so that he can go more, but we need him on the field, man.
There's not a lot of other options available at this point in time, for sure, especially for this upcoming week. I guess if you get Owen back, and we don't know about Robert Taylor, but after the break, maybe things get a little bit easier. But that's why we see Alistue. That's why we see the positional changes. There's nothing on the bench up front.
Yeah. So whenever Nelson comes off, Alistue comes on. That's when we see that switch to the back five. Rosales shifts back to left wing back, and then almost immediately gets a shot off from that left side with his right foot, which is a thing he's not really been using, but chops back onto his right foot, hammers the ball towards the far post, and it is inches wide and hits the post such that it bounces back away from goal instead of back across goal. That would have been such a great shot if that would have gone in.
Well, then I think the next sub we have to talk about, just for the response in the room or in the building, if not, anywhere else, is good. Diego Luna comes in at 71, sees his first bit of action, and is impactful and making a difference, even though he doesn't end up on the score sheet, right?
He does not. But so we switch to the back five. We start slowing down those wide patterns of play that RSL killed us with for the first 60 minutes or whatever. We start slowing those down. But then when Luna comes in, he starts terrorizing our midfield and is just buzzing around, one-touch passing, give and goes, and the guys in the middle who had been on the field for a long time, and then Sabovic, who just kind of looks tired all the time for whatever reason. They're
Yes.
just left in the dust by Luna so many times. And so the troubles continue just in a new way. And then talking about Sabovic looking tired, we'll talk about this last goal that puts RSL ahead. Stein Spearings, who is a new signing this year, this is his first game, comes on playing in the midfield. And I looked this up. He played at Toulouse in France for a few years. And I think if my research is correct, that he would have been there at the same time as Dessler and Gabrielson. So it would have been teammates with those two guys.
That's kind of a cool little nugget. I think you said this. So these are, this is his first 9 minutes in an RSL jersey. Is from 81 to when this one ends.
Yeah, and I don't. Was the shot his first touch?
Oh,
I would guess
don't know.
probably not, but it could have.
Hopefully not.
Anyway, so this goal comes from kind of out of nowhere. RSL is pushing. They have numbers forward. They're going for it. Justin Glad is the center back, has the ball past midway, plays just a little touch pass to Spearings, who's standing in between Sabovic and Ilie. And this is like a very Austin FC mentality thing to me, where, okay, Ilie's a few feet to the right of him. He's worried about Luna. And then Sabovic is a few feet to the other side. And it seems like he just thinks, I'm close enough, so they're not going to play this ball to him. Wrong. They play a ball just into that space. And I think Austin FC brain says, oh, no, he's too close. You can't play a pass there. He's like, yeah, watch me. Just plays a little touch pass. The weight on it is such that, what is his name again? Spearings. Spearings could have either taken a touch negative away from goal and had the defensive momentum going away from him, and he could have turned and kind of had some space there, or he could have let it run, and he does the latter because there's nobody close to him. So he lets the ball run past him. I think maybe he looks up once and then does not touch the ball. His first touch is the shot. Catches Stuver by surprise. This is where Nico is saying there was a stiff wind in that second half, and Austin was against it. So there's a wind behind him. Maybe the altitude has something to do with it, but very definitely Stuver did not expect a shot to come, because we should not be letting a guy shoot from there that easily. Really, really good strike. No, not taking any credit away from him, but we can't let a guy receive in that space so easily like that.
Well, and this is one where the XG on the shot is a total lie, right? I was just looking at this. Expected goal on the shot is 0.03. And in that situation, wide open down the middle, it's not the easiest shot in the world, but it feels like something that goes in more than 3% of the time.
Well, I mean, at the very least, like it is a dangerous place to have the ball in, whether it's a shot or a pass or whatever, and we just let them walk through that space essentially.
So basically, nothing else happens there. Austin gets a couple. They don't get a couple chances. They get the ball like in added time and just seem to be walking around with it as if they don't really care. Which I think they got a little bit of a stick on the announcer on the game on the announcers on the broadcast from the announcers for that, but not a lot of urgency throughout the evening.
Yeah, the last 30 seconds or so tick away as we're just kind of casually passing the ball across the back, and I'm yelling at the TV like, "Guys, let's go!" Like, I know, like I get annoyed at people yelling at soccer players to just boot it up the field all the time because it's often not the right thing to do. In this situation, boot it up the field. Let's get it up
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a minute left. Oh, we get Ramirez comes on and doesn't I don't know if he even touches the ball. It certainly doesn't change the pace at which Austin is trying to move forward. So yeah, this one ends up being a tough loss away with a tough road ahead. We talked about Stuver on that on the second goal, but still, like, he still had a really good night. And I think the save that he has at the end of the first half, which was that one? It was like the guy at the post, and it was a header.
Gila Vogi's header. There was a ball floated to the back post. John Gallagher, God bless him. How many balls to the back post have just sailed over his head? And Guilherme Biru, I'm not just going to let John catch strays here. Biru is at fault for a lot of this kind of stuff too, but I understand he's short, and Gila Vogi, who wins the ball, is tall. There are short guys who read balls well, and Gallagher is apparently not very good at these things because he just whiffs on it. Gila Vogi's there, a tall guy, point blank header right in front of Stuver, and Stuver somehow pushes that one over the goal. So that was great. There's another really good one in the first half when Griffin Dillon hits one from the top of the box that Stuver's able to push wide. There was a double save in the 57th minute after a really poor giveaway, and that's just a few. I think there was more than that, but we've talked about Stuver not being as busy this season as he has in the past. He was busy in this one and earned his paycheck in this
Reg, big hand.
Well, on Griffin Dillon, was he the guy that came out injured when Spearings came in?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I felt like he had a really good game, and I was relieved to see him go out. And then obviously that did not work out well for Austin, since the guy that came in scored the game-winning goal.
I guess Stuver is maybe the thing we liked. Is there anything else we like, or should we move on to things we didn't like?
Let's move on to things we didn't like.
What do you got?
Uzuni either making bad runs or sometimes running in the wrong direction. Sometimes it's like he's running that hard. For a guy that sees everything, he doesn't seem to see everything.
Do you have any like specific examples of him making bad runs? I have some criticisms, but I'm curious to hear what you're thinking of.
There's a ball probably, like in the first 30 minutes where I feel like, I don't know. I feel like he could have been more direct, and it seems like he drifted out wide instead on the ball. But I don't remember the specific moment on that. Like it was like as if he thought he was playing on the wing again.
Yeah. My criticism of Uzuni, not just in this game, before this season, is like I think part of him not getting touches is not entirely his fault. We need to be able to get into more dangerous spots and create more opportunities for him to run onto the ball in the final third. We're not doing that. So that's on the rest of the team. That's on the coach, not entirely on him. But there's a few moments in this game, like, okay, I understand Uzuni's not going to be the guy to drop into midfield and distribute and have like soft little touches with his back to goal and hold off center backs. Like, his game is to run in behind. But even when he did this in that game and we tried to find him, he wasn't good at that either. And so there's a ball that Rosales plays earlier on in the game to his feet as it's like in transition. He's running in between two center backs. Rosales plays a bullet pass to his feet. Ideally, he would like maybe take a touch forward into his path, and it just bounces off of his heel and goes backwards, and RSL recovers it. Another one where Rosales switches to left back. He skins the guy up the left side, plays an early, I don't know if you'll call it a cross or a through ball, but plays it into the path of Uzuni, and Uzuni can't outrun the center backs to get on the end of it. And so he's not even good at the thing he's good at.
Which is a problem. That's like there's anything else to say about that, especially on a team where you're missing one of your other who should be your other big scorer. Although I don't know if you can call Uzuni a big scorer at this point in time either. But yeah, he's got to finish these things, and he's in it seems like the place where he can best succeed is playing up top alone, as opposed to playing on the wing. When we saw him and Vasquez try to be in the same space so much in the early part of last year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out what happens, but like, I still think there's a way to get him more involved and to get him more productive, but he's getting those chances sometimes, and it's still not happening. So I'm not very optimistic right now.
Yeah, I felt like Facundo Torres was largely invisible, other than that one play on the night, and it's just, I mean, I feel like the whole offense is disjointed, and maybe he's not playing in his best place right now without with Owen not being around and other wing options not being available. But he seemed really, really quiet on the night. I didn't remember his number getting called a lot.
And this is where I'll put some blame on Nico Estevez. Like, you see what RSL was doing all night. There was a clear pattern of what they were trying to do. It was get the ball wide to Sanabria and to Gozo, have them drive at players, and then have forwards drop in, midfielders come and form triangles with them. It's not super complicated. It was just getting guys in the right spots, reading the game. Where Austin, their only threatening moments came from just kind of individual moments of creativity, or a couple of little give and goes up that left side where we got through. But there was no pattern, as far as I could see, is like, this is what we're trying to do. This is kind of how we're going to create things. It was more like, okay, we have some nice little patterns playing through their press in the back, but once we get past midfield, everyone's just kind of standing there. There's not really any discernible patterns of movement or plan happening. And like, I don't understand what we're supposed to be seeing. Like, I figured after watching Nico Estevez's team for this long, we would know what that is supposed to look like. Like, we knew what Josh Wolf wanted to do. It wasn't always a great plan, and it wasn't always the best plan for the group of players he had, but I knew what he wanted to do. I'm still not entirely sure what Nico Estevez wants to do.
And don't you feel like that was what Roto talked about Nico, like what he thought Nico would be was like Josh, but not a jerk, basically? I mean, like that kind of, those ideas about the way that the team played, it seemed like what we were presented with whenever Estevez was brought on board.
I don't know. I don't know if that's what he said or if that's what we read into it. But Roto has said things along the lines of like, we want to be like a club where you can kind of plug in pieces. Like, you're not so dependent on the coach setting the pace and setting the tone of what the team is going to be. That like, the team is what it is, and players and coaches will be chosen and brought in to kind of continue what they are. And if this is what what we are, then like, I don't know what that means.
Well, did you have any other Nico thoughts before we talk about Joseph Rosales and anybody else that you wanted to maybe cover on this game?
I'll just say, like, it leans into Joseph Rosales. Like, I understand that Nico is missing players, that he's got some injuries, got some unfortunate things here and there, but like, it's still your job to put guys in their best position and put guys in a position to succeed. I don't think he did it with the defensive or offensive game plan in this game specifically. And then our next point, Joseph Rosales, seems like he's playing him out of position this whole season so far. And from like the broadcasters were saying something along the lines of like, they talk to the coaches beforehand, and they'll often give them little nuggets of information that have not, for whatever reason, been made public or said publicly. And Sasha Kleshtin said something along the lines of like, Rosales is kind of a stopgap. Like, he's been put out to the right wing out of necessity, which is a thing that, like, for a couple of games, I'm like, sure. But if this is going to be the case through the first quarter of the season, I don't think you can justify that approach anymore. Like, a quarter of the season is not a stopgap. That's a quarter of the season. Like, put the guy in the position where he's going to be the most useful in the game. And he has looked useful when you have moved him over there in games. And so that's really frustrating to me too.
Yeah, and I think he looked a little bit somewhat dangerous in this one, but mostly probably playing as a fullback. Because wingback. I think the announcers even talked about him as a wingback a lot of times during the match. But even before he actually made the move to being back there.
Yeah, because he did not play that way. Because like you'll see wingers drop back and defend as wingback. He was defending as a central midfielder, and so I don't know. I think last week I was like I was angrier about the game because of the sense of injustice that I felt because of the refereeing decisions. This one is just more deflating. I'm not as angry, but I'm just like a little bit deflated and depressed about the state of things because these are not things that were inflicted upon us. These are things that they're kind of doing to themselves.
Yeah, and these are continuations of things enough that it's like become a pattern. Now we're 4 games in, and it not everything's not just a one-off. But I mean, I feel like I've had this thing I hate Rosales on the wing note on the show notes from every single match so far. I feel like some of this talk about tactics or lack thereof or attacking patterns or whatever, like that's been consistent. So I think it's just as this continues to go on and, with LA coming to town, it's not like an easy way that this club is going to fix themselves. Like it builds upon itself.
Yeah, and I think like it will look better when we get more of these players back in, but in the tough games against better teams, you still need a plan. And if we don't have that, the guys coming back from injury aren't going to fix it. Like there's still problems to be solved.
You need Alex Rings playing with courage out of these guys at some point. And I don't know who that's going to be, right now, because it doesn't seem like anybody's enabled to do it in a way that Ring and some of those guys were back then. But they'll definitely need it this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, for sure. We will get to that here in a moment. Let's take a quick break first, and we'll come back with a few pieces of Austin FC news and our LAFC preview. Hang tight.
Moon Tower Soccer is by Sage Wilson Realty. If you're looking to score your next home, or rates are lower than Landon and I's current vibes about the state of the team right now, don't get caught offside. Talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty.
The right strategy, and you should have a strategy, unlike some soccer teams, can turn today's opportunity into your winning goal, and you do need to score goals. If you're looking for Sage real estate advice in Austin, contact our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com. All right, we are back. We're going to do our LAFC preview here in a second, but first we have a few pieces of news to cover. Jeremiah, we kind of thought this might happen as of last week, but it is now official. This FC Dallas match that is after that initial stint of Leagues Cup games has been moved. Give us the details on this.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, that final Leagues Cup match is on August 13th, which is against Club America. Austin was set to return to league play on Saturday, so just 2 days later against Dallas. They get one extra day of rest, which doesn't seem like a ton, but I guess it's what we have to do with the schedule. So this is now Sunday, August 16th. Kickoff remains at 7:30 Central. So it's one extra day to recover from Leagues Cup.
Yeah, better than nothing. I guess maybe if we make it through to the next round of Leagues Cup, though, it might be less rest on the back end of it leading into the other game, but I think you maybe worry about that when it comes.
Right. August is a long time from now. There's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and then for this club.
Jeremiah, I went out and watched the Academy play this weekend for the first time in a while. Since I've been playing soccer on the weekends more regularly, it's harder to get out there, but I went out and saw the U18 team play against FC Dallas. They ended up winning 2-0. A pretty dominant performance, which has not always been the case against FC Dallas. Like, FC Dallas has the reputation they have for a reason. They produce a lot of young talent. And in the early days of the Academy, Austin would get thumped by them or like have to work really hard to stay in games. And Austin looked like the far better team in this one. And then the game I did not watch that was going on at the same time was the U16s. They beat them 4-0. And then I think the U15s drew 1-1. So pretty good returns from the academy against in-state rivals.
Yeah, I enjoyed following along on Instagram. So did you go just because you had a free weekend? The weather was nice. Were you in the mood for some soccer? Were there players you were wanting to get an eye on, or like what was the motivation?
All of the above, Jeremiah.
Okay.
The weather ended up being really nice. Sat in the shade, and Hernan from We Are Austin TV was there, and he's pretty looped into the academy stuff much more than I am these days, and so he was kind of telling me about some of the kids I wasn't familiar with, but got to see Christian Ayala, who played in the MLS Next All-Star game last year. He looked really good. There's some other kids who I'd seen play a couple of years ago who have like grown into themselves. You see these little string bean kids running around and you come back, it's like, oh, you like look like a soccer player now. Good job. So that was fun. One story from the day, and I'll tell this story not necessarily to like call this guy out, but also a little bit to call this guy out, mostly as a cautionary tale. There's a parent or somebody there during the U15 game that was happening after, and every moment during the game had something to say, was just like speaking very authoritatively, but also with a tone of exasperation of like, oh, play it forward, play a through ball, somebody's got to steal the ball back, oh, get it forward, and just like knew the right thing to do. If they only listened to him, they would be playing perfect soccer and would be winning 5-0. I'm partially telling the story, like I said, to shame this man, but also mostly to say, listeners, don't be that guy at a kid's sports game. Like, check yourself. Do you actually know what you're talking about? In this case, the answer is no. This guy didn't know anything about soccer. Also, you're not the coach. You're not the one telling the kids what they're supposed to do. And so when you yell at a kid for not doing the thing you're telling him to do, you are giving them conflicting information. That is not a good environment for these kids to develop in. So shut up is my main point.
There's this one team. I'm not going to say the high school football team, but there's this one team that has a dad like that, and his kid and Jackson Bentley have been on the same level playing. So they both played freshman ball, and we went to the game. I was like, God, that guy's like the most annoying sports parent ever. And they both moved up to JV, and we play that same team again. And I hear that same guy, and I'm like, I'm hoping they don't both end up on the varsity next year, because I need a break from that dude. So yeah, don't be that guy.
I grew up
with a coach
with a kid in my school had a dad like that, and he acted like this was the most important thing in the world, this 2A high school football game, when the best we ever did was like a round deep in the playoffs. His kid was like a rotational player at best for us, and he treated it like it was the Super Bowl every time. I'm like, dude, your kid is not that good. Like, don't, just calm down. Also, again, you're not the coach. You don't know what he's been told to do. You don't know what he's supposed to be doing. Don't give your kid conflicting information. I don't know. It made me like angry and sad at the same time. That like I was annoyed for the 30 minutes I watched that game and was in earshot of him. Those kids hear him every week, like you're saying.
Every week.
That sucks.
It does. All right, well, let's move on to some World Cup qualifier call-up. So we got the news in the last couple of days that Alexander Svatak was called up by Ukraine for their qualifiers this week. So they're going to play Sweden. I don't remember which UEFA group it is. I think D, but it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
And if they win, they will play the winner. That's on the 26th. If they advance, they will play the winner of Poland and Albania on the 31st. If they win that, then Alexander Svatak, by all reasonable assumptions, is going to be a World Cup player. Like, he's a regular call-up into that squad.
Yeah, a lot of ifs there. And so we haven't gotten this officially yet as of time of recording, but I'm guessing Uzuni will get called in for Albania for these games as well. So there's a chance they'll play against each other, but only one of them could make it to the World Cup, right?
Right. And then we got the news that today that Joseph Rosales gets called up to Honduras for some friendlies that they have coming up during the break.
Yeah, that's not a big surprise. He's been kind of a mainstay there. I think the next ones will be like, will Torres get looks before the World Cup? He's been okay for us, but not lighting it up, so it's not guaranteed. Nelson is in the same boat with Canada. Like we said before the season started, both of those guys need to kind of make a showing in this first stretch of the year. I don't know if what they've done has been enough to get the attention of their coaches, but those are the other two guys that are still kind of in contention right now.
Yeah, and I think we can probably write Brandon Vasquez off at this point, can't we? I mean, given it seems like the rest of the striker pool for the U.S. is doing good enough that there's probably not a lot of space for him, even if he comes back and tears it up.
Yeah, I think Balogun got injured, and so that maybe puts the question back on the table, but he'll need to come back and start scoring immediately if he wants to even be in question. And yeah, I think you're right, though. Even then, it might be a little bit too late.
I would be happy for him to force that question, though. Let's go for
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about the LAFC match coming up. This could be on Saturday. It's at 7:45. In case you haven't heard of LAFC, they're a little club that plays in Los Angeles. Finished third in the West last year. Beat Austin rather soundly in the opening playoff series. Ended up losing to Vancouver in PKs in the next round of the conference semifinals. There's a lot of people you know and love and fear. I guess the one thing that's going on for them is they play away in CONCACAF Champions League on Tuesday nights against Alajuelense. And I think
Costa Rica, and they need a result. I
was going to say, they need a result. Yeah.
And so they need to overcome the away goal at the very least and win on that. Even a 1-1 takes them to penalties in that one. So they'll have to kind of bring it, and playing away at a lot of Costa Rican clubs, but Alajuelense is one of the ones that will bring it environment-wise. And so they're going to have to play a game and like actually perform there. This is not one they can sleep through.
Yeah, and I haven't watched a lot of the Champions League games so far, but these are always fun ones, I feel like. When the MLS team is like away in a rowdy environment, regardless of your rooting interest.
Yeah, and needs a result in that rowdy environment. Fireworks often fly.
Yes.
And so I think that's maybe where some of the hope comes, which we can get into here in a second. But let's get into maybe some of the changes this offseason.
Yeah, so his biggest change is at coach. Cherundolo lives out of his dream of like just going back to Germany and hanging out. As far as I could tell, that's like legitimately what actually happened. So Marc Dos Santos comes in.
It seemed to be hinted that maybe there's like it was family reasons, potentially even like political reasons, because they lived there for a long time and came back for the LAFC job, or I guess maybe coached in Vegas before then for a year or two. But from what he says, like his family didn't want to be here anymore, and so they went back to Germany where they've lived for most of their lives.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more that it was like a coach that left and didn't get pushed out is where I was going with.
Yeah,
like, maybe it wasn't his dream. Maybe
it was his choice.
His family's
though.
dream. Yeah, it was his choice, and it was not one of those mutual departing of ways. It's not really mutual. So Dos Santos comes in. They signed Steven Eustáquio on loan from Porto for a half a month with a loan to buy, but I think the loan is like $7 million to buy him. So we'll see if that happens or not. He did play in their first 3 matches. Picked up a little bit of an injury running into a referee during the third match and missed the St. Louis City match, but it didn't seem like that was too serious. And then just like one of these dudes that you know that's around the league and is pretty good that always ends up in LA is Jacob Schaffelberg, also ends up with a club. And then they lose basically nobody of note.
Yeah, and they've changed things up a little bit this season where under Cherundolo it was pretty reliably that 4-3-3 look. They would try to defend and hit you in transition, and it worked really, really well most of the time. There were stretches early last year where it kind of wasn't working. They were able to kind of bring it together and ended up having a really good year. It seems like Dos Santos wants to do it a little bit differently. The shape has been a little bit different this year where they're playing Bouanga on the left wing still. Son has been kind of playing underneath a striker. In this most recent game, it was Nathan Ordaz quite a bit of fluidity between those guys, though. Ordaz is comfortable dropping in. He's played on the wing. They'll play him in the midfield some, but so quite a bit of fluidity. But they're using Son a little bit differently. They're not just throwing long balls ahead to Son and Bouanga and letting them take care of things. I think there's maybe some fans who would prefer they did that because it is spectacular when it happens. But I think the goal is to make LAFC a bit less one-dimensional as far as like where their goals are going to come from. They've had some stretches this year where they haven't looked like a killer attacking team, but they've not given up. They've given up 0 goals. Is that right?
0 goals. 4-0, 8 goals scored, 0 goals allowed. And those 8 goals have come from, Son is not one of them, but 5 different players. Ordaz, Bouanga, Delgado, Chuneri, and Martinez have all scored 1 or more goals for them. Son's got 2 assists, and they have allowed none.
Yeah, so I was going to say that one of the like hopes for this game is they've got this game midweek. They've not rested these Son and Bouanga. I think they've started every game so far, including the additional competitions. They need to win this one in Costa Rica, so they'll probably start them there. I could see them taking this away trip in Austin as a way to maybe rotate and rest some guys. But even then, like, it's David Martinez on the wing, who is a young guy, not consistent, but on his day, really, really good. Nathan Ordaz, the same. On his day, really good. Schwanier scored a banger. I think Eustachio has scored some goals. Like, they have some other really good players, and they have guys on their bench who, quite a few guys on their bench who would start for a lot of MLS teams. And so there's no case where this game is easy unless LAFC comes in just kind of emotionally and physically hungover from all these other games, not resting those. And we've seen LAFC do that before, right? Like Austin FC has taken advantage of that exact opportunity, but I don't think we should expect that.
Yeah, Austin last year in the regular season picked up a 1-0 win at home and a 1-0 win away, one in March, one in October, under those exact circumstances. And I think if you had to predict a scoreline in which Austin came away a winner, it's probably 1-0.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean,
it also means you need who is it? Dessler? Who was it that was just all over Bouanga?
John Gallagher shut him down.
Gallagher, that's right.
On a couple of occasions, I think.
Yeah. So get back to that John Gallagher, not the one that like keeps letting headers in from the post.
Yeah. I came into prepping for this show before the game this weekend, ready to like give a bunch of praise to John Gallagher. I think he's been pretty good this season. And there was a video posted on his social media, or maybe this coach's social media, but over the offseason, he was in Ireland, did some individual like supplemental training, which a lot of players do. And I assume John has done it. I don't know how much he's done it to the degree of like the technical training. I assume since he wins the beep test every year, he's at least doing like physical training and staying in shape. But I don't know if he's done this kind of training where it's like running situational things as a fullback. There's a YouTube channel that I think Mike helped turn me onto this and a few other people, but it's called Become Elite. And it's this USL player who just kind of does day in the life things and like, this is what it takes to become a pro. Here's tips in this situation in life. But some of the videos he does is like, here's my supplemental off-season training. And it's just running like real life kind of drills of like, here's things you're going to face as a fullback. And we're just going to drill those over and over and over until it feels like second nature to you. This is the kind of stuff John Gallagher was doing in the off-season. And he has looked sharper with the ball. He's looked more confident with the ball. And I wanted to give him credit for that. He did not look that way in this game. And so hopefully we get the sharp version and the confident version that we've seen in some of these other games, and then the defensive version that we've seen shut down Denny Bouanga in certain games, because we're going to need it.
Yeah, Austin is going to need it for sure. But like we just said, like stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened, particularly between these teams. I don't know what if you throw the playoff matches out, like they're probably more even in terms of like head-to-head outcomes than one would think based upon where the teams have finished in the table every year. And man, one of the greatest days of my Austin FC fandom is still that LAFC game in 2022 when we just took them to the woodshed.
Yeah, that was one of the ones where LAFC didn't come ready to play, right? And we took advantage of them. So In any case, Austin can't come into this game scared. They need to come ready to fight. I think we as fans can I think it's completely acceptable for us to emotionally protect ourselves and kind of expect to lose this game. The players can't think that way. They can't afford to think that way. If they come in scared, LAFC is going to punch them in the mouth and destroy them. So the players need to come out fighting. They might lose anyway, but if they want to chance it all, they need to come ready to go toe to toe.
But I think your point is good as a fan. And I think back to like the home playoff, the return playoff match when Austin played LAFC last year, and we all just kind of knew, like, probably not going to win. Just going to like have a good time, jump up and down, chant a bunch, see our friends, like just enjoy the moment in Austin, Texas, and the fact that we have a pro team, and it's going to be a fun Saturday evening no matter what.
Yeah, hopefully we can bring some positives out of it and stay healthy. Of course, keep the guys we have on the field now healthy, but also carry at least a little bit of momentum into this international window so that on the other side, when we do have guys coming in, there's like something to carry through and to be not just thinking about like 3 terrible games in a row going into this break.
I think we've said enough. Let's wrap it up.
Let's do it. We'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us on the internet where we are more present now. Thank you, Whitney. Sign up for the Patreon. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to review the LAFC match. And since there's an international break, there will be nothing to preview. But we will be joined by King Bradley Stuver for an interview. It'll be great to talk to Brad again. Looking forward to that. So we'll do that and then cover any other Austin FC news that pops up. Till then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothings, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Zulu Chupa Boom Sauce.
Yeah.